We're all gifted. Johnny Whisman on acoustic stylings.
Down here in the valley low, it knocks back all night long. Someone cut them chains, baby, let the dogs run away from home. Three sheets to the window, we're flying me in the breeze. Three sheets to the window, we're flying in the breeze. On a rocket butter, lady, made always. The whipple is coming, they've come to steal my soul. Hear the whipple is coming, they've come to steal my soul. Gonna lock all my doors and close all my windows. Here we go. you blue.
job, man. He's got that thunder finger. See that? You don't want to get around that thing. It's like a weed eater. All right. All right. Thanks for coming down this evening. This is the field trip for the 2024 edition of the Ohio University Paranormal class. And then we've invited a few friends. So this is the old shelter house at Mound Park. And I remember as a kid, like when I was a teenager, like you might come in here and you might get in a fight or something. There's always mean kids, there's broken beer bottles in here, sneaking over here to smoke cigarettes. But that was back in the old days when kids was wild. And since then, Allison and Jim Kalb took over this structure and they've renovated it. And if anybody's interested in renting it, contact Allison or Jim Kalb. And they don't offer it in the dead of winter because they shut off the water in here. But up till November, is that right? You can rent it, have an event in here, or have a ghost hunt or whatever you want to do. But Allison, would you like to come up here and I think she's going to tell about this building out here. We're not actually going to walk over there, but she's going to that's the creepy building over there. And tell us anything you'd like to about this property. She knows so much.
I wonder what Heidi's heard.
Yeah.
We started on this about 30 years ago, maybe longer. I don't know. Heidi was little, I know that. And it was just something we felt called to do. It needed restored, and we wanted to put bathrooms in, so we did all that. And then we had summer kids programs for a while over here, and Heidi participated in that too. But we had a lot of activities for them until I got too tired to do that. But we've just taken care of this building for 30 years now, and so we've had a lot of different experiences. And up until the early 1900s, there was an old children's home right on this spot. So that orphanage was torn down after it fell into disrepair, and they built one in Wheelersburg. And so in 1932, they built this and the other building over here through the WPA system. If you do walk over there later and you go to the north end of the little building, look up in the chimney, and there is a carving. One of the stones has been carved out and placed there when they built this. And I can't tell, it's a darker stone. It's darker than the rest of them. And it's either a woman with long hair or a Native American. I don't know, but it's got like a diamond-shaped block overhead and a diamond-shaped underneath, so it could be Masonic. I just got no idea. Somebody slipped it in there though, and probably unnoticed to everybody else. And I just happened one year when I was out there with the kids, I just happened to look up and caught it. So I asked everybody I could think of at the city, and nobody knew what it was. But that building has always had kind of a creepy vibe. And there have been different paranormal groups who come over here with their equipment and different things and take pictures and all this. Well, one group, and I cannot remember, it was one of the first groups that came over. It's been about 25 years ago. And they didn't have good luck after their trip here. I know they wanted to go in that building, and I tried to get the door open, but that night it just it did not want to turn, and then the lock just felt hot in my hands, and the key, it's like it just bent. It just broke off in the lock. But somebody happened to be taking pictures at that time, and the picture came out. It looks like a smoky hand slicing through the lock. Now, it's funny that it did break at that time. But that group, like a week or two after they'd been here, one person passed away. They didn't realize they had throat cancer, and so they passed away suddenly. One lady or gentleman was putting his hat on and he had car keys in his hand, and I guess he drove the key right through his eye, but just, they had bad luck, and but they're the only ones that I know. They were they seemed a little darker than most of the people that had come over here, you know. So most of them don't seem that way, but we've had a lot of different strange experiences in here. And usually it's when I was with my sisters. There's 6 of us, 6 girls, and we love Halloween and the full moon, and you know, just that's just our thing. But we were over here one night and trying to remember, it's been a while, but all of them had left except for my younger sister and I, and we were in here and we were setting up for an event that was coming up, and she started through the back hall, and she turned around to look. She wanted to get the effect. She had plugged the lights in down here, and we had like starlights over the mantle and everything, and I remember I had a bag of sand or something. I was filling up for candles or something, but she comes back, she goes, I want to get the full effect, and she turns around and looks, she goes, well, how'd you do that? And I said, do what? She goes, turn those lights off from back there. And I said, well, I didn't turn the lights off. And she goes, she said, the mantle lights, she said, you turn them off from back there? I said, no. We came out and looked at the cord. I mean, it wasn't stretched tight, so it wasn't like it pulled out of the socket. These are good solid sockets, but the cord was laying out in the middle of the room. And we left a trail of sand going out the door, barely got the alarm set. But there's been a lot of different things that have happened over the years here. And we've had a lot of different events, but yes, I forgot about that, thank you. When my husband was first working on this, he was over here by himself, and he did all of the painting. It was just a shell of a building, but he was up on these beams painting, and he started to fall. And he was just, I mean, it would have killed him if he hit this concrete. But he said he felt hands come and right him up and help him till he got his balance back and got back up on the beam. But I don't know, Heidi, can you remember any of this?
That one stands out, which has been odds and ends throughout the years.
But it seems like since I've spent so much time over here, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, not here, but I think because of this place, I think from spending time over here, it's just heightened my awareness or something.
Mounds.
Yeah, and the energy of the mounds and different things that have happened. But the Edgar Casey group came up here on a mound tour, and they did mounds, the tour of the mounds in Ohio, and so this was on their stop list. But they went and sat inside of that mound, and a lot of them had some unique experiences. And one fellow went, well, it was Greg Little, Dr. Little, had gone on Coast to Coast, if I know what that is, the radio station Coast to Coast. And he's telling about his experience down here on the mound. And so that went out nationwide. Well, the next day we had people showing up from as far as away as Las Vegas. They'd heard the story and they wanted to come experience for themselves. So it brought a lot of people in, and they all have a lot of stories. But I won't take up any more of your time. And I'm glad you all came out. I welcome you,
and contact them if you want to, do something at this great little place.
yeah, if you'd
It's
like to
available.
do something. We will be closing at the beginning of November because this is our only source of heat, and we can't let the water pipes freeze. So you want it before then, just give us a call. It'd be Allison Kalb, K-A-L-B. I'm on Facebook or in the phone book, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And once again, Johnny Whisman on acoustic music. He's available for hire. He's a professional musician. He's also on Facebook. And I guess we are going to talk with John Kelley. He's one of my old school chums from old East High. He's East High Tartan.
That's high.
And he knows a great deal about Portsmouth ghosts, but he's gonna pique your interest a little bit. He's gonna tell about a podcast that he runs, and if you want to go in for a deep dive, you can check him out there. So, John, would you like to come up and give us your presentation?
Okay.
All right.
That's okay. I know we're about right on time, so I'll be fine. Okay. We'll be running late, but I'm gonna be fine.
Just up there, and you don't have to. If it's putting you behind, you don't have to take too long.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm running just a few minutes behind. It'll be fine. I'm gonna be fine.
Okay.
Okay. If anyone here, if they can access the internet on your phone, I would get to Facebook, Haunted Boneyfiddle. You'll definitely want to, there's some pictures on there you'll want to see. And I'll be getting to those. And I'm John Kelley. I do a couple of podcasts, Tales from the Haunted Historian and Worldwide Weird on Facebook, on the SoundCloud. There's another one on there called The Voice. It's socio-political stuff. In case you're not into that, you can just avoid that. And I think I'm going to start with a story I don't think many of you know about. Did you know that the Boneyfiddle area downtown once had a steel mill? Anyone know that?
Yeah.
You did?
I'm from here, so yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
That's good. In case you didn't, it was called Burgess Steel. And the story of Burgess Steel is intertwined with the story of Portsmouth's first graveyard, which was, if you want to know where that was, if you go to the corner of 3rd and Madison, hang left and go through it's an old scrapyard. Go to that and follow it, just go straight to the water, straight to the river. And that was the site of Portsmouth's first graveyard in the early 1800s. Now, by 1829, the place was getting pretty was pretty near capacity. And it was of course, in a bad location near the river, prone to flooding. So they decided to move it to a better location, to what we now call Greenlawn. Now the area was eventually sold to Burgess Steel. And it turns out when they moved the graveyard, they weren't exactly careful. They missed a few things. Actually, they missed a lot of things, which the people at Burgess found out to their horror when they started digging the foundations. And you imagine the feeling that went around. No, we are cursed. We desecrated holy ground. And Burgess Steel was plagued with accidents, things moving on the road. There was a figure I kind of call the bagman. People would hear their whispering behind them. Then turn and see a guy dressed like in a black business suit, carrying like a doctor's bag or something, who would stare at them for a while, then they'd turn and walk away. And then, of course, the most disturbing thing of all would hear people whispering the names of people who would then die in an accident. And it's I was just wondering if people would actually hear the name of Burgess Steel being whispered, because in 1898 the main furnace caught fire and the place pretty well burned to the ground. It later moved to New Boston, became what we knew as Empire Detroit Steel. Now, Graveyard Steel Mill. Portsmouth was once, this was a boom town. It may not look like it now, but the Boneyfiddle area was known as Little Chicago. That's right, Little Chicago. You got to imagine the flood barrier that's there now was not there. And there, you imagine riverboats going up and down, bringing in supplies and stuff. The old Clark building on Front Street, that was the site of a major smokehouse. There were hotels, the Alexandria House, the Biggs House. The Desco building on Chillicothe was a hotel. There was one called the Scioto Hotel on Front. And then there was the hotel, which was in my next story. It was called the Europa. So you might know it better as Riverbend Mercantile, or the Printer's Attic. Now, if you go to my Haunted Boneyfiddle page on Facebook, look that up, find under the photographs Riverbend Mercantile. It's a neat little picture of probably the most cited, frequently seen ghost in Portsmouth. Riverbend Mercantile's Lady in White. Her story goes back to the Hotel Europa days. She died on the property. It's unknown whether she was a guest at the hotel, whether she worked there, or whether she was a prostitute. Because like many areas, several buildings in Boneyfiddle, the Europa doubled as a house of ill repute. There were a couple of those. The Market Street Cafe was, and there was one around the corner, about 2 doors up from the Candyland. There was one there. And she died without any means of identification. And they could not find a thing. There were some rumors about her being from around the Raritan area, McDermott, that part. Nothing panned out. So the owner of the Europa made as a last resort, he propped her body up in the window to see if anyone could identify her. Nothing. She was buried in Green Lawn, an unmarked grave, and she is probably the most frequently seen ghost in Portsmouth. And if you want to see her, go on the Haunted Boneyfiddle page, look up Riverbend Mercantile. Zoom in on that picture. Look at the bottom right window, and you'll see her. I wish I was closer when I took that picture. It was on a walking ghost tour in 2009. When I got that picture, and yeah. You want to see it? You want got it?
She's trying to find it.
Yeah.
Was that the same year that the Falls Festival, when they did that on Boneyfiddle?
I don't know.
There was a fall festival one year, there was a couple guys from Ghost Hunters that came down there.
No, I think this was a year after that where they had, I did remember that when I actually met Stephen Sauls.
Me too. Yep.
Yeah. And if anyone's seen that,
Which?
Riverbend Mercantile. Okay, then just enlarge it, zoom in on on the bottom right window. Anyone find it yet?
So is it?
Yeah, that's it. See if you can spot her. Bottom right window.
So is it?
Yeah. No, that's not it. No, that's. Look at all now. This is not. Yes, it's. I can't see it. Let me do another story here.
Yes, sir.
Another one is another pretty famous story. Is I think y'all will know where Alexandria Park is. In Front Street. Well, as I mentioned, the river trade and stuff, and that was where, I think it was around 1870, a riverboat called the Kanawha was traveling along the area. They were forced to dock on the Kentucky side by a heavy fog. And during the night, when they were docked in Kentucky, they started hearing screams coming from the Ohio side. A woman's terrified screams followed by a very disturbing silence. They didn't sleep well at night, as you can imagine. The first night, when the fog cleared, they set out to see what had happened, and they found on the riverbank down there, they found a cabin. The thing, when they got inside, the place had been trashed. And there was a trail of, like someone had dragged a body or something out, out through the front door. There was on the front door, there was a handprint in blood. It's like when someone was dragging the body, pushed the door open, like that. The largest of the Kanawha Gal crew that came over was about 6'5", weighed close to 300 pounds. This made his hand look small. You gotta figure this brute made that was about 7 feet tall. And they went out to further investigation. They ran into a hunter who was running for the police, and he had found what they were looking for. Not pretty. Woman bludgeoned to death. And she was identified as Mary Fisk. Her husband was away on a hunting trip. They had a 6-year-old son that's never found. And then, since then, Alexandria Park has also been come to known as White Lady Point because of what they think is the ghost of Mary Fisk on there, wandering in white, sometimes hovering over the river, arms stretched out, mouth hanging open in a scream, and screaming. I've talked to someone a few years ago. I did a radio interview on this subject. A lady who hosted a radio show called Scared Spitless, and she gave me a first-hand account. She and her boyfriend were at Alexandria Park down on the river, and they were on the verge of getting really hot and heavy when they saw something so horrifying. They left their clothes there and they ran. They didn't describe what they saw, but I can imagine what it was. Has anyone ever seen anything like that?
No, thank goodness.
If you have, I would just go to my my Haunted Boneyfiddle page on Facebook, the community reports there under the appropriate pictures. And I appreciate Facebook friends, anything like that. And hope sometime I get to do this again. I've got a lot more stories.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories with that big bloody handprint. I always think it might have been like a cryptid or something coming around there. But John Kelley, and he, like I said, he's a historian of sorts. He likes all these strange facts. So if you have any Portsmouth or surrounding area ghost stories, contact him on Facebook because he likes to keep a big archive of this, and he has lots of stories. And now we have Emily from the museum, and she is quite an expert on the prehistory of the Portsmouth area and these mounds that we're standing on now, this sacred temple that's used to be. And we'd love to hear from you, Emily. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. I've got some information for you guys. So my name is Emily Uldrich. I am the director of Main Street Portsmouth and Bloom. So I did spend, prior to about a year and a half ago, around a decade as the educator at the Southern Ohio Museum and Cultural Center. So one of the prized collections of our art museum is over 10,000 prehistoric Native American artifacts. So unfortunately, our museum is closed down for remodeling and expansion for about a year, so we can't look at it, but we can talk a little bit today about the mounds. So the first thing I'm going to hand out to you guys are some events that we have left for Main Street for the end of the year. We've got a cookie crawl coming up on the first Saturday in December, and then we also have a tour of historic places, some of which might be haunted, on the December 8th. The next thing I'm going to hand out to you guys is about Scioto Historical, which is an app which was created by the Center for Public History at Shawnee State University. So if you go to sciotohistorical.org, you can go on your phone or on your computer, and there is actually a virtual flyover of the Portsmouth Earthworks complex that was created a few years back, and it gives you a bird's eye view of the entire complex and what it would have looked like about 2,000 years ago. I have some limited handouts for Mound Park, so if you're interested, you can take one of those, and then I've got maps of the Portsmouth Earthworks complex. So some of you might be aware that we are standing on top of what at one point in time was the largest of all Hopewell ceremonial earthworks. So this is actually the remnants of what was at one point in time the largest prehistoric earthen mound complex in the entire world. So the map that you're looking at of the Portsmouth Earthworks spans about 12 miles across, and the earthworks themselves in the 1840s were recognized as being 7 miles wide. And because of research into the historic surveys, we now know that it was even larger than what they recognized back in the 1800s. So here at Mound Park, I have to give a shout out to some of the groups that have come together to make improvements here at Mound Park. We definitely have to thank Allison and Jim Kalb, but there is a major award that is coming down the pipeline from the State Historic Preservation Office for public and private partnership that was put together to make improvements, do responsible archaeology and preservation here at Mound Park since about 2018. So the State Historic Preservation Office is presenting a preservation award to Portsmouth Connects, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to outdoor activities, also to the Scioto Foundation, which is our local area foundation that put a lot of money into these projects, to the Hilltop Neighborhood Association, who is actively fundraising for a new playground. Under the Hilltop Association is also the Mound Park Pickleball Club, who just renovated our pickleball and tennis courts. And then they also recognize the City of Portsmouth and our Scioto County Commissioners for their contributions to the effort. So it's really taken a whole community to work toward preservation here at Mound Park. And it is so precious because out of all of the earthworks that you see on that map there, here in the City of Portsmouth, we only have 3 left. One of those is the East Twin Horseshoe Mound that you can see here at Mound Park. We also have a low conical mound, which is about 80 feet in diameter, and then we are actually standing and sitting here today on top of an earthwork. So in the 1800s, when they first started studying the Portsmouth earthworks, they called this the natural elevation. So we are up about 18 to 20 feet. The natural elevation at one point extended 600 feet to the east. If you drive down Grant Street, you can actually see the raised ridge that all these houses are built upon, and that was part of this earthwork. So the Hilltop Neighborhood Association raised money for archaeology to determine where to put the new park. And so part of the archaeology they did was on top of this elevation. They dug pits in 2022, and what the archaeologists found was that they dug down 5 feet and they never found the subsoil. So that means that all the dirt that is piled on top of this is river dirt that was brought in basket by basket, 30-pound basket loads of dirt by hand to make this earthwork. So we are actually standing on a sacred earthwork here today. So some of you also might know that Ohio has just been recognized last year as having UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the Hopewell Earthworks. So we are not one of those 8 sites, but we are in the largest of all Hopewell ceremonial earthworks. Yes?
Emily, Allison wanted you to know that if you would like to refer to that map she has, if it would help out, you can.
Yeah, excellent. I
If
didn't
you
know
want to
that.
pass that around and help them, get a visualization of it. But it's got on there the natural elevation.
Yeah, excellent. So the Mound Park is the center of the Portsmouth Earthworks Complex. So these 2 twin horseshoe mounds were once surrounded by a 600 foot diameter enclosure, and that enclosure actually had gateways in the intermediate directions. So there were earthen pathways 150 feet wide, 3 to 5 feet high, that led for miles in the directions northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, to different elements of the earthworks. So here we have the East Twin Horseshoe Mound still here, and then it's a little bit of a debate whether or not the conical mound is the remnant of the enclosure or whether it's an additional mound. My suspicion, based on plotting the map, is that it is the conical mound that was reported in the 1930s by a gentleman named Charles Wirtz, who was one of the 2 collectors of that collection of artifacts at the Southern Ohio Museum and Cultural Center. And then here we're on top of this natural elevation.
If you'll notice, that's actually a serpent.
Yeah.
Around the enclosure, and that's a serpent head. And that's what I always thought that part was the serpent's head.
And it could be. It's a little bit difficult to tell, but I think from looking at some of the maps, my suspicion is that it's the conical mound that was reported here, but there were supposed to also be additional mounds. We don't quite know how many that were on the north side of the property here before it was Mound Park. So if you guys want to check that out, that's a really cool map. So I do have a couple creepy stories that have to do with the earthworks that would probably be fitting for this kind of gathering. And I'd be happy to answer questions when we're finished. I can talk about earthworks all day. This is my favorite subject. So I'm in the process of finishing up a book on the Portsmouth Earthworks Complex. I'm not going to tell you when it's going to be done because I keep pushing that date back, but it's going to be a couple volumes, and I'm really excited for it when it comes out. It's going to be online in PDF form for free for everybody. We'll also have physical copies available, but part of what I found frustrating in my research is so much of this information is suppressed from the public. Archaeologists in general consider it bad practice to spread around maps of where these earthworks are because they're very concerned about a micro-minority of criminals, which they call looters, that go and dig up these things. Here in the Portsmouth earthworks, unfortunately, most of the complex is destroyed, and all of this information has been public for over 100 470 years, so I'm not too worried about anybody finding any new information about what I've compiled. But as Allison was telling us, this building was built on top of what was once the foundation of the children's home. And they built the children's home in the 1870s, and in 1878 there was a gentleman from Portsmouth named Thomas W. Kinney, and he wrote an article for the American Antiquarian Journal where he talked about what they found when they dug the foundation for the children's home. So when they built the children's home here on top of the natural elevation, they dug a cellar for the children's home. And in his article, he actually made a diagram of the cellar. So it was a 50 by 50 foot square pit. It doesn't say exactly how deep everything was, but you know, a cellar is probably a story below ground. And when they dug the cellar, across the entire length diagonally of that cellar square was a paved stone pathway. So it was 2 feet wide, it was made of sandstone, and the sandstone was actually piled together vertically for that entire length. It actually extended beyond the edge of the cellar. They didn't do any explorations because they were trying to get their project done. But that remnants of that pathway are probably still here somewhere under our feet or out in the natural elevation. And then in addition to that, he also found a circular, what he described as a clay altar or basin. So it was like an oval, circular shaped altar and basin. And then there was also a conical clay drain, which T.W. Kinney described in his article as the drain for blood. So I don't know what basis.
Sacrifice.
Apparently that's what he was thinking.
Like the mines.
Yeah, so these are things that we have found in history throughout the world, that there were things that happened like human sacrifice. There are earthworks in America like Cahokia where there's actually pits of people, the hundreds of people that were sacrificed and placed there. Now in the Portsmouth earthworks, we don't have as much evidence for that, but among the Hopewell culture, a lot of us have romantic ideas about how things were peaceful and everybody got along back then. But in the Hopewell culture, we find bones, human bones, finger bones, drilled, worked, human jaw bones that have been cut in half and made into crowns and necklaces. There's entire femur bones, which have been etched with geometric designs. Some archaeologists like to think that this is part of their respect for their ancestors, which I guess is possible. But at least in our culture, that wouldn't necessarily be something you would do to honor your grandpa or your father.
Did you know about the oven that they found out here?
No, or the when they did the archaeology in 2022? Yes.
In the sinkhole section, in that section.
Yeah, they did find a prehistoric fire pit, and that's what kind of put the nix on the playground being up here. So the playground is going to go back down lower in the less disturbed area, and the archaeologists would not come forward and actually say that this was an earthwork. They did say that the soil was brought up from elsewhere, but they said it was possible that they brought in all this soil from the river when they built the children's home. But when you go back and look at the surveys from the 1800s, the height of the elevation is the same. So I would venture to guess that this is all an earthwork. They said the only way they could find out is if they dug an entire trench from the top to the bottom of it. And then in today's best practices, that would absolutely never happen because you do not disturb an earthwork unless you absolutely have to. So these are things that we'll probably never know for certain, but I say it's pretty safe at this point to conclude that this is one of the 3 earthworks that we have left here at Mound Park. So I'm going to leave you guys with the creepiest story of the Portsmouth Earthworks complex. And one of the things you might have noticed on your map is that the Portsmouth Earthworks is not just on the Ohio side, it spans into the Kentucky side. So in South Portsmouth, there's a group of mounds that were actually in Boneyfiddle, which were called the Brown Mounds. And in one of these brown mounds, it was a conical mound, they excavated it, and what they found was a sandstone wall 4 feet high built up in a circle. And inside of this circle, they found bones. And what it ended up being was disarticulated skeletons of 22 individuals. and the bones were covered in red, black, and yellow ochre. So this was all reported in Charles Wirtz's manuscript in the 1930s. He was involved with a lot of these excavations. But what it tells you when these bones are covered with these different mineral pigments, you can't put the pigment on top of your flesh and then let the flesh rot away. It's not going to be on the bone. So that means before these bones were buried in this pile inside this wall, they were denuded of flesh and then covered with these mineral pigments. But the most unusual part of this find was that none of these 22 individuals had their heads. So there are 22 skeletons, no skulls. So 15 years later, at a mound that was in the steel mill, near the steel mill in New Boston, near the Ohio River at the end of Ohio Avenue, they were doing construction there, and what they found inside that mound at the base of the mound was 22 skulls. So these are sites that are separated by 4.5 miles on the opposite side of the Ohio River. So it just kind of makes you wonder what in the world was going on here. I don't know that I would say that's something you would do out of respect. So, and I don't know, it's so hard, because like if you were living back then and you had a war, is it something that you would do to bury one of those people in a mound? It seems like a mound is more of an honor. But then another way, we hear stories from all around the world of the lengths that people go to when they encounter things like witches and vampires to keep these people under the ground and out of the influence of the rest of us. So you kind of wonder what was going on when they walled up all of those 22 people and removed their heads by almost 5 miles away.
And you gotta wonder, I wonder myself if that would, you remember the Indian Head Rock?
Yes.
Okay, I wonder if that would be close, you know, on the opposite, because it was found on the Kentucky side.
Right.
Of course, we got in trouble over that.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, somebody had said to me one time that they thought that could have been a symbol for the underwater panther. And you had to pay a price to cross the river safely. You made an offering to the underwater panther. But I wonder if that would have marked the opposite side.
It was, I mean, they were talking about across from New Boston, so that's quite possible. I never even thought about that. That's definitely fascinating. Yes?
So, do they know the 22 people? Did they all die at the same time, or was this over?
So this was prehistoric, so we're talking, especially the conical mounds, archaeologists estimate that those might even be older than 2,000 years. Those might be some of the earliest mounds in the Portsmouth earthworks. So we're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago in our climate. So like what happens when bones are buried in the earth for that long is like as soon as they are exposed to air, they pretty much disintegrate. So I don't know that there is any trace of those people
So they
left.
couldn't tell if it was like men or women?
No, and then this was also like late 1800s, so like it's not like they're doing radiocarbon dating, like there's really no way to tell. So I mean, it's possible, you're right, that like these people might have died over a long period of time, and then for some reason they were part of the same clan and put there. We don't know. Yes.
Emily, did they take note of the dental work of these skulls?
No. I wish there was more information, especially with this story, because there's so little attached to it. But one of the things that they did mention, and archaeologists also document, that like when we're talking about the Hopewell culture around 2,000 years ago, they did live here year-round, and we know that by the animals that they hunted and by the plants that they ate. But that they had a nice varied diet and plenty of protein. But when you start approaching about 1,000 years ago, they started farming more, and corn was a big part of their diet. When they ground corn, it was on stone and oftentimes with sand, so like they would wear their teeth down completely to the pulp, and that was very common. They also showed signs of what we call pellagra, so that would be a protein deficiency in the diet because they were relying so heavily on corn and not as much for some reason on animals in their diet. Yes?
Did you see the documentary that featured Vernon Peach, and he talked about the Madeline Wirtz collection and he talked about reburying a giant skeleton.
So yes, he was featured on Ancient Aliens. So Vernon Teague was really my mentor at the art museum and just a wonderful gentleman. He passed away in January, but there was a father and son that amassed that collection that's at the art museum, Charles and Bill Wirtz, and Vernon was actually friends with Bill, and then Bill's widow, Madeline, is the one that made sure the collection actually got to the museum. And there were human remains associated with that collection. The museum, of course, did not take that, but Vernon helped Madeline do what they call repatriation. So those were reburied, and nobody knows where or when exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we probably do. But another mystery of the earthworks. But yeah, Vernon was featured on the History Channel on Ancient Aliens and kind of told the story of it. It was funny listening to him talk about that experience because he said they were trying to like pretend that he was like this mean curmudgeon-y old guy, and if you knew Vernon, he never met anybody that wasn't his friend.
No,
so yeah, I don't think it quite worked out how they wanted it to, but I'm glad that that is preserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if they were all like regular sized, if there was any.
So the largest documented skeleton that came out of the Portsmouth Earthworks complex was over 6.5 feet tall, and that was when they were building the N&W Railroad Bridge. So I'm assuming that would be Sciotaville. And then there were also, I've seen pictures, and if you look back through, like you can do like word searches for like, it's WERTZ and like the Portsmouth Public Library collections into the old newspapers, and there are some photographs of those artifacts and the skulls when they were in Bill's cases, and there are some that were pretty big. Now, I don't know if I would go to the extreme to say they're giants, because there are people that we have documented that were pretty close to 9 feet tall, so like that we have photographs of. So there were some pretty big people, but I say if you were big and strong and healthy, that would probably be a real asset 2,000 years ago. And then there's also a whole heck of a lot of stories about people much larger, but we don't have any concrete evidence here, at least of that.
We don't need concrete evidence.
No, it's just fun to think about, right?
Really good story.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, thank you, Emily. I just love your talk. She's did all the research, and she's talked to all the best people. And watch out for her new book's coming out, and we're not going to hold her to a timeline. You just get them done because you're a very busy person working with the Portsmouth, you know, all the different interests around town, and the museum's getting a facelift. So next year, is it going to be open?
Yeah, so they are actually expanding. So the two properties adjacent to the art museum they have purchased, they're going to be putting on a whole new wing and a new gallery there, and being able to expand what they can display of the permanent collection. The museum is built in a building that was Security Central Bank in 1919. So they are in the process of resurfacing the plaster walls that have held artwork since 1979. So you can tell how many nail holes have been poked in there. They don't really hold the art like they used to. So it's getting an entire renovation on the inside, and it'll be exciting to see what happens when they reopen.
Cool. And a side note, I'm planning to debut my new album there December 10th. We're going to try to squeeze in the back a little space if they can open it up. And so December 10th, if you're not busy, I'll probably bug you before then. Okay. Theresa is she's an expert in the unseen realms. And so I will just let her introduce herself and tell all about your festivals and your website and everything that you do.
Alright, so hi, I'm Theresa. I met a couple of you in class a couple of weeks ago. And that's when I talked about a little bit about the history of haunted West Virginia. Because not only am I a historian and paranormal investigator, I write about these things on a blog, but I actually get out and do the field research. And I'm lucky enough, a couple of my fellow investigators have come with me tonight. So I asked this question before, but who here has done a little bit of paranormal investigation before? There you all have. Okay. So we've been about half and half. Who wants to do some paranormal investigation? Yeah. All right. So I've been doing this for a little over 20 years. Unfortunately, this is my first time here at Mound Park. I have not even been to Portsmouth before. So I'm really excited. After I tell you a little bit, we'll kind of see what the schedule is. I brought some of my equipment. You're welcome to come up here, get your hands on whatever this is, ask me questions about how it works, what it does, and you're free to take it and roam around wherever we have access to and try to pick up some stuff. Now, did anybody bring their own equipment tonight? Teresa's okay, great, awesome. So we'll have a little bit of stuff to work with. But like I said, right now I belong to Spectral Research and Investigations. We're based out of Huntington, West Virginia. We started in about 2020. I had left my earlier ghost hunting group in 2017 and was really kind of doing some freelance stuff on my own. And then during the pandemic, I happened to meet Brian Clary, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but he's our founder of SRI. And basically, he's a teacher in the Huntington area. And so he was off work during the pandemic and got bored and decided, hey, this is the perfect time to start a ghost hunting group. So we found each other on Facebook, and of course, we got together and started this group up. And luckily, we've been together for 4 years. We average about 1 investigation per month. So we've hit some really interesting places. Let's see, what in Ohio? Is everybody here from Ohio? I know a couple people are from West Virginia. And anybody from Kentucky? Kentucky? That's really our kind of tri-state area that we work out of. West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio. So places that we've been to this year. We've been to Fairfield County Infirmary this year. We did the Octagon House in Circleville, Ohio. We did the Ross House in Kentucky, Cynthiana, Kentucky, and we've done Waverly Hills in Kentucky this year. We've also been to Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. So we've hit some kind of really major hot spots this year. And in the past, we've also hit the hot spots. We've been to Moundsville Penitentiary. We've been to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And we kind of pride ourselves on, we're a group that, of course, we love the technology. This is just my personal collection of tech that I have. Everybody in our group has some equipment, and then we have some group equipment. So we're really into, we love the stories. I'm a historian, I'm a folklorist, I love the folklore, I love the spooky stories. But we try to see, okay, what kind of scientific evidence can we get to kind of back up those stories? And then we take a third-pronged approach to that. I'm a historian by nature. Brian is a history major by nature. So we are really into the history of this. And we're kind of one of the few groups in our area that really deep dives into the history. Before any investigation that I go on, I'm usually spending hours and hours going through old newspaper archives, going through genealogy websites, going through any primary sources that I can find that can help me pinpoint kind of, what I need to be looking for during these investigations. And sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. We've learned that a lot of the popular haunted locations have stories that have been passed down over and over through paranormal investigator, and there's not really any truth to it. Now there's usually, in most things, we find a grain of truth in everything. But a lot of times we found that, truth actually is stranger than fiction, and we'll find stories that are far more horrific and could lead to a haunting that really nobody even knows about. So let's see. Okay, so like I said, I have never been to this Mound Park before, and I'm so excited to kind of learn a little bit more about it. All I did before here to get ready is just some really basic reading. So we do kind of this is maybe sort of maybe an outdoor/indoor investigation, depending on what we want to kind of do tonight. What are some of the things we might want to look for tonight when we try to see if we can find paranormal activity? What will we try to do to... What was that? Orbs. We could, orbs. orbs. We have to be really careful with orbs though, because a lot of times, even modern cameras, when you catch it on camera, it's going to be airborne particles. And that's a real, when you do an outdoor investigation, that can usually be a problem. Especially with outdoor investigations, you really have a lot of variables that you got to work with. We're not really in a secure location. Anybody can just come up here on this property tonight and, you know, make noise. There's traffic, there's weather conditions. So these are all things that we want to, you know, look out for that might mimic paranormal activity. But we know, I guess, a couple of the stories we've heard tonight. And we know a little bit about the history of the land. We know that we had early, you know, First Nations people who built the mounds here, perhaps even maybe did some human sacrifices here. So that might be something that, you know, we kind of tailor our questions to, tailor our investigation to. We also know that this was a children's home on this location. So some of the questions that we ask for a recorder or spirit box, we might want to try to contact any children that may have been here. So, is there anything in particular you want me to talk about, or what do you want to do about this, Todd?
Headless vampires.
Headless vampires. Well, if we find any headless vampires, please let me know. That's a little out of the realm of what I normally deal with, but we could probably do some stuff.
When we were here one time, it was like 7 or 8 years ago, and I don't think we really found anything substantial, but I just left the place feeling like with a good feeling.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
You know, like the story about Jim up on the ladder. That
It's
he
very
had
protective.
a helping spirit that assisted him. And now over that building though, they say that there are creepers over there.
Oh, okay.
But it seems to be a pretty nice place over here.
Yeah, and definitely tonight, I mean, use your senses, your natural senses. All of this stuff up here is fun. It can, you know, produce some fun results. None of this stuff is going to prove that a ghost exists. Your best meter that you have is your own feelings. You know, what are you seeing? What are you hearing, feeling, smelling, you know, even tasting? Make note of all of this, because this really, you know, could be a sign that there's something here.
You are your own equipment.
You are your own equipment.
I'd like to ask you, you mentioned Shawnee Lake.
Lake
Yeah.
Shawnee. Mhm.
That is the site of the Mitchell Clay.
It is, yes.
Those were my ancestors.
Oh,
That was
really?
on my dad's side,
Mhm.
grandparents.
Oh, wow.
stuff like that. And, but I saw a show on that on TV a couple of years ago, when they had turned it into an amusement park. Is that the right place?
Yep, that's it.
And the guy told the story about the little girl getting killed there when the swing hit the coat delivery truck.
Correct. Yeah, that's the story.
And then he talked about driving his tractor, and he was going through the field on his tractor, and he looked over and he said, there sat a little girl, he's as cute as she could be, but she was bloody, sitting on the, and he stopped the tractor and left it there, never went back for it. But now, is that now an abandoned site? Or?
So it's not abandoned. The White family who purchased it in the 1980s to kind of turn it back into an amusement park, that didn't work out, but they still own it. And right now, the property is really kind of used for tourists. It used to be, they'd have mud bogging, they'd have fishing tournaments and stuff there. Now it's really used at Halloween. They have a haunted house attraction, and they allow paranormal investigators to come in and camp there. But it's interesting you bring up the little girl, because that's one of the stories I was talking about. So there are plenty of deaths that are associated with Lake Shawnee that we absolutely have.
The Mitchell Clay family?
Yeah, we definitely have documentation of the Mitchell Clay. Several children drowned in the pool in the lake. There is no documentation that that little girl ever existed.
Really?
And
so was that a made-up story then about
See, I'm not really sure exactly how that story got started. I know it started with a psychic impression. That's how the story got started. And I have some theories about that whole story. All right, so when we look at the history of it, looking at the newspaper articles, first of all, that swing itself, they tell a story that that was the original swing that was there in the but like that came in the 1920s when they first started opening the amusement park, before it was sold in 1967. And when the White family came back in, they just randomly purchased a swing for their new amusement park, and they happened to look at the numbers, and it was the same swing. So it was sometime, so people say the 40s, 50s, or 60s is when this accident happened. What we did find was that the Nadeau family that originally opened the amusement park, they had a little girl who did pass away in a very tragic accident. But it was at a hotel that the family was living at. She died in an elevator accident, very tragically. And then there is also a story from the nearby town of Bluefield that a young boy was walking along the sidewalk downtown, and a Coca-Cola truck backed up and hit him on the sidewalk. So I don't know if these two stories may be combined, and maybe the little girl they're seeing, you know, is it the daughter? Is it somebody that actually died on the swing that we don't know about? All we know is that there's no newspaper articles about this whatsoever. Nobody has been able to show me a death certificate, and I haven't been able to find it. I've been to the archives. I've been to in Charleston to even look for the archives. It doesn't exist.
Well, the Tabitha Clay was murdered on that site.
Yes, yes.
And then her brother was taken to what is now Chillicothe and burned at the stake.
Yeah, and there's a story that they were able to bring his body back, so he is buried there as well with the brothers and sisters. So it's absolutely a tragic place. Like this, there's a lot of Native American history. Even before the Mitchell Clay massacre, you know, years before that, there was another tribe that lived in the area. And so there's a very spiritual feeling about that area, and that's probably something that you can pick up here tonight. And that's a good point, that tonight, when we're visiting and investigating, we really want to make respect a top priority, because this was a sacred place for so many people for so many years. Anybody have any other questions? Does anybody want to tell me some of their creepiest ghost stories or places they've been? Y'all are quiet tonight.
Does anybody feel like there might be any kind of presences here available? John, do you think that this place is active right
I don't know. I don't feel anything.
I don't feel anything.
Why don't you get out your SB7 and see what we got?
Okay, so I can turn it on just so everybody can hear it for a little bit, but then later I want to try an experiment. I'm going to need a volunteer. Okay, so does everybody know what the spirit box does? This goes it sweeps through radio stations really, really fast. And every once in a while, you're going to hear spurts of words. And hopefully it'll ask us some direct questions, or answer some direct questions. So if you have a question that you want to, be answered, or it pops into your mind, just blurt it out.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. This one's a little bit clearer. This is just an app on the phone. that does the same thing, except it cuts out a lot of that extra white noise. Wait.
Check.
Does anybody want to take some thermal pictures to see if they can pick anything up on the thermal? Any volunteers? I don't want to be a teacher and pick something random. Alright, I'll put it in the middle of the table and you'll have to fight over it. Okay, if you want to take a picture, just click the trigger.
Seems just.
If you want to, have somebody sit in this chair for a few seconds and then sit back up and see how long the print lasts. Or if you don't want to get your blood print, you can put your hand on it too.
No, I'll get the
So normally when we would do this, we would start by taking some baseline readings. We would go around, we would see what the temperature is, where the EMF sources are, where the electricity is coming out at. Some people think that areas of very high electricity, especially if you're very sensitive, can cause all sorts of symptoms that can mimic a haunting. I am extremely sensitive to EMF fields, so if I sit by like an unshielded, fuse box or something, I actually will start seeing shadows in the corner of my eyes.
So, one of our classes, I think it's the one you were, we talked about electrical interference. I don't know if it's just because I was in class with you guys talking about it, but Saturday morning, my hair dryer decided to attack me.
Oh no!
It caught fire, shot sparks out, lit the breaker in the house, yeah.
Oh my
I've
gosh!
never had any issues like that.
That's
Maybe
crazy.
it's because of that. Or maybe it's just old and time to go.
So a couple other things that are really cheap and easy to use. We use cat balls, sort of as motion detectors. Now these are very, very finicky, so if you just have one sitting there and it goes off, you can't really say that that's a ghost or not. If you have these in a line though, and then now they have like the actual EMF ropes that you can buy, if those are lighting up one by one in a row, or lighting up directly on commands, then that's something to look at. And we did have that happen at the Hayden house. We had an issue where the front door flew open while one of our guys was sitting downstairs monitoring our cameras. So we put the balls in there, and we asked whatever it was to come and do that again. The door didn't open, but between the two doors we set at, it was 1, 2, 3. They lit up. So I'll give each table a ball to monitor.
Ask that things and questions, see if we can get any.
Would you like to ask it a couple questions?
I don't know what, Emily, you know something about the history of this area.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there anyone here that would like to talk to us tonight?
That was interesting. So this is just a REM pod. This is kind of like a theremin. It sends out electrical signal around it. Anything breaks that signal, it'll go off. But your cell phone will set this off. Your handheld CD radios, walkie-talkies, all of that will set this off. So again, something you have to be really careful about.
You live in a children's home around here?
Okay, what? Let's go. Real question.
That sounded, I'm not gonna say what that sounded like.
I thought it says, so where is she?
Oh.
All right, does anybody want to try the parabolic blank? Now, this can help you hear voices that might be a little bit too low for the ear to hear. This is also really helpful if you have a property that there's a raccoon or mice or something in the walls. But at Old Hospital and College chill. We did have some weird stuff happen on this. Our sound guy was using this, and he ripped the headphones off, and he's like, "You've got to hear this." And I put it on, and I swear I heard a little girl crying for her daddy. Anybody want? You want to try that one? Okay, you just pull the trigger when you're ready to listen, and here's the volume. Something lips. Find somebody with glasses and look at somebody with glasses. It looks really interesting.
Can you tell us your name? Are you the children that want to play tonight?
I've got a toy car in my bag. Would you like me to get it out? Stop it for a minute. Genius.
Are you talking about Brandon?
Okay, so who has heard of the Estes method before?
Oh, yes.
Estes method, okay. So the Estes method is, we're gonna do basically what this is doing. It's gonna scan through radio stations, but we're gonna have a person who's got noise canceling headphones on and a blindfold. So all that you're gonna see is blackness and what is coming over that radio frequencies. The rest of us are gonna ask questions. You're not gonna be able to hear or see us. So hopefully you'll be able to answer our questions. They call it the Estes method because it was basically invented at Estes, Colorado, at the Stanley Hotel. That's why it's called the Estes method. The investigators started doing it. Do you want to do a demonstration first, or does somebody just want to volunteer? You want to do it? Okay. Yeah, everybody can do it and have a chance to do it. All right. So a couple things to listen for. It's going to scan. And you're going to kind of listen to two things. That white noise underneath, see what you can hear under that, or what you hear that's coming from the radio that seems significant to you. Also, if you feel anything, let us know. If you see something in your mind's eye, or you feel something touch you. We're not going to let you stay more than maybe 5 minutes or so. Come out whenever you're ready, if you need to come out. About 5 minutes. What? Here, come out from the experience.
She's ready.
But after 5 minutes, I'm going to tap you 3 times on the shoulder. So you know that's means don't come out and punch you. Because we've had that happen plenty of times. All right, we got set up for you. So here's your one. Okay, so your volume is this top toggle right here. So you want it kind of as loud as you can stand, but don't blow your speakers out. And when you're ready, just give us the thumbs up. Yes, just say out loud whatever you're hearing, seeing, or feeling. Okay, I've got the headphones. Alright, I'll turn this one off so I can listen to her. Alright. Testing. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
You just want your stuff back.
Pretty W.
Can you hear me now? This button means that there's a temperature growth or increase of 12 or 5 degrees or more. Hills, is that their Hill Street around here?
What'd you say, just
Hill Street.
Timmonville?
Christ. Are there any children here tonight?
There's a church.
Good.
What'd you say?
Good. Are there good children here?
Did anyone hurt you here? Is there anyone here?
Good.
How old are you?
Live alone?
Are you old or young?
Did you live here long ago?
What year is it for you?
That's what I was asking.
This is scanning.
Stop scanning. Okay.
How long ago were you here? Next person.
Would you like someone else to try to speak with you? Let us know.
What's your name?
So when we do these sessions, we kind of want to figure out who we're talking to. If we know a name,
What'd you say?
but we can kind of ask the same questions phrased differently over and
Christ.
over again. She said Christ or something.
Twice.
Christian.
Did you go to the church back here?
Reach out.
Are you a boy or a girl?
Is there one or many people here?
Five women.
Wow.
Were they caretakers?
Reach out to her.
1734. Address maybe? Year?
Is that where you lived?
Is that year?
Who's that?
Are you afraid?
40s. December.
What happened in December? Is that when you were born?
Arm away.
What is your name?
Do you want us to be here?
Alright, who wants to go next? Anybody else want to try it?
Breathe.
Would you like to try next?
Nicole, would you like to try?
I would.
right, so yeah, listen to that.
Christ twice and Christian once, and almost she made Florida water last night and wanted to spray it with it. So I got the power of Christ, I don't need that.
I think we need to move this question and answer section. Okay, so whenever you're ready, toggle's right there on the top. Yeah, right there. And that's pulling your body.
Right.
Whenever you said something like 4 or 5.
Is that the one? Trying to turn it up. All right, does anybody want to watch her through this and see if there's any changes around her? And normally all of our sessions. All eyes. All eyes are on me. They are. They're just watching you.
What is your name?
Not to care. We would like to know if you would tell us. My name's Theresa. 1.
Are you by yourself?
My soul.
Are you okay?
Wow. Bringing. Hang on. There's so much. Let me switch it to AM. Is that okay?
Yeah, how do you change this?
Oh, there it is. Where is it coming from?
139.
Everything is just like so fast, like I said, making words.
We're really figures. You know, a lot.
Interesting. It is.
GPS synchronized.
I know that voice. It talks to me in my car.
I use English though.
You're going hard. Why are you not doing what I want you to do? Cause you guys just like a button you push and you're on AM. No, this is a hard one for me. It's the kids push for me. 'Cause every time it goes to AM, it stops. Yeah. So I'm gonna go super slow. It's
Scanning now.
Okay, is that better? Yeah. Okay. It's going super slow. Oh.
How many are here?
Triplets. Most people. Look. You can live in the toilet. Because on the tables, there's some little balls like this. Can you turn one of those on for us? Just touch it and make it turn on. All. Yeah, if you could turn all of them on, that would be awesome. Laid, all, laid. No shame.
Is somebody hurting you?
Did you hurt somebody?
GPS signal lost.
Runaways. Yep. Did you try to run away? Were you caught? Tall. Hurry. It's me.
What is your name?
Entire people.
Somebody chasing you?
Some.
Are you little?
Free.
Why are you running?
Names. Well, that was NFL head coach.
How old are you?
Are you scared? Are you alone?
Take those shots. I would have mounted that sports channel.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Did you have to take shots?
Wanna die.
Are you by yourself?
Were you on your porch?
That kind of sounded like chanting. As I call, I'm around. Scripture. That goes with the Christ and Christian. If you're here, can you make a noise so we know it's you? Now, if nobody's in there.
That's what it is.
You know, that's one of the biggest things that people tell us in haunted houses, that the toilet flushes by themselves. And we found out, we had this one house that saved my life. It was beside a fire hydrant, and so anytime like the water, was getting messed up, that's when it would flush itself.
Are you running from Kentucky?
Join me.
Yeah.
I'm just listening there.
Did you cross the river?
Did you live across the street?
Sent. Where were you sent?
Where are you going to?
Never. Powerful influence. Where are you right now? Let's meet.
Where are you from?
Night. Want to eat? I think there's cookies. Would you like a cookie? Would you? Behold. What the hell? I have a right to bear, so to speak.
Somebody have a gun?
¿Cómo te llamas? Friday night. My hand on the deck. Car's red. Was it somebody in a red car that hurt you? Can I help? Can we help you? Is there anything we can do to help you? Call my name. What's your name? Do that to precede me. Or don't try it. What will happen if we call your name? I am. Who are you? Time to run out. Stay. I can still see. I'm grown up. $409. Commissary. Sleeping.
Do you know Zaylen Conley?
Back. About that same word before. No place. Zaylen, are you here with us? 4-4. Oh, it just said what the F. I want you to know that. Listen to that.
Who are you?
Where are the graves gone?
What graves?
Give me a break here.
Did that wear you out, Nicole?
Yeah, a little bit. Did any of it? Yeah, some of the stuff you were saying may really pertain to an incident that happened across the road. It did, a couple of things didn't really sound like
Well,
it.
when she just said, where did the grave go, there was a little, they had put some crosses up down here, flowers, and I don't know if they're still there or
I
not.
think we passed it on the way in. There's a wood spotty cross out there.
Okay, maybe lost it, there was a little boy who was shot and killed a year ago, and the person who shot him stood about right in here, hiding behind this building, and the little boy was on the porch across the street.
I remember that.
But right after you said that name, so it's several.
Yeah, it did.
And I was just getting ready to ask if they'd been shot, and she said something about shots.
Yeah, that was a lot of reading.
No, just, I think people are still interested. If you have the interest, continue. When it ceases, you know, you can wrap it up.
Sure. Does anybody else want to give this a try?
I think she wants.
Thanks so much for coming.
Yes, she does.
I kind of have a little strange story.
Sure.
The church we go to, we have a big gym that we rent out for, birthday parties or whatever. And I was in the gym area waiting for people to show up for, I guess they have a wedding and reception there. And I was the only one there, and I was in the gym, and I heard people talking upstairs. So I was like, well, they come through the other door. I was upstairs, and it's dark, and there's not a soul there. And he was speaking, talking downstairs where I was. I was like, well, they'd come in that door. And I went downstairs, and not a soul there. But I heard like 2 or 3 people carrying on a conversation, but I was the only one there. Like I was down here, and I heard them up here. And I was up here, they were down there. And I've never heard it again, but it was just really weird.
Who are we speaking with now?
Situation?
What kind of situation?
Anybody interested in, like thousand rods or pendulum?
We did those one year, a fellow
Check for
was
motives.
teaching kids how to do it, and they found the spot where they found that oven. She was saying it went right to that spot.
There was a new medical facility that was built near me just in the past 2 or 3 years. And
How many
I
are
went
there?
past there and I found I think it was like the gas company guy was out there dousing.
Yeah,
And I was
they
like,
really used it, cause
Yeah.
the old, guy who worked with the water department, that's what he was doing, he's looking for a water line up here.
I was like, it's 2023, this guy is
They still use it.
Here's something to.
Is there someone here? Can someone have your name?
That's different.
Picture?
So you may want to walk around and see what our temperature and baseline EMFs are.
Somebody wrong name. Somebody.
Upset?
I mean, they're not moving.
Are you upset?
Perfect?
Tell us your name. Were you?
After?
Were you law enforcement?
Shovel. Looking for a mule? Yes. Spots are available? Deep, smooth voice. Talking? Who are we talking to? Is Zayla still here? Taylor, got something, if you're with us, you might be out of the wall. Fresh delivery. Free? Martin. Here's a little toy car, if you'd like to play with that. I don't know what you asked me, you got that big smile.
How old are you?
Not lately.
October? It is October. The music? Is there music you would like for us to play for you? Check out.
Check out one.
Actions. How did? What happened? What do they want?
GPS signal lost.
All we want from you is just to talk to you and to know what your name is.
Play into it?
Okay. My name's Theresa. If he talks, she can
Now you
listen.
have to get a number? Burial? Burial?
There's been burials here. Are you buried?
Devil.
Show us. Multi?
Ricky, are you here tonight? Ricky Harden.
Buzzard? Work out?
you wanna go out,
She's right at this, like in the middle of the hallway.
if you wanna take some of the stuff, we'll go out around that creepy building.
Yes, absolutely.
And then get anybody else that wants to come, and we'll
Maybe
go out.
after this one, we'll see.
Okay, yeah, right.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I remember him.
He told me a long time ago.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
All the little snippets.
Yeah. The more you listen to it, the more you kind of get used to it.
I didn't remember that aspect. I did remember it. It broke all people's hearts.
It kind of reminded me of all the kids with their ears.
Yeah, we just when he left the earth. You know. Well, she has a good one.
Are you on leave? Oh, I'm so glad you came. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, yes, I definitely did.
Oh,
Do you guys wanna use this full spectrum camera?
yeah, man.
Can we get it outside?
He's definitely, he's quantumly entangled with that place.
Yes. Was holding
Snuffy Smith.
She got to meet him once.
One of our teachers.
I introduced. Yes. Soderville. Joe Arnold. Joe Arnold.
Are you related to Dale Arnold?
No, I never watched that family.
What is this one again? That one is the full spectrum camera, so that does IR, AUV, like the whole spectrum. That's why it's kind of cool. It will just look like something.
You look like
that's beyond our realm.
There's nobody.
You guys get through the
Bear Creek down there.
Okay, folks, this is the end of the recording because it's went about 2 hours and I don't think anybody wants to watch anything more than that. But thank you for coming. We're still going to do some stuff, so you don't have to scatter right away. But thanks for coming, and if you're like everybody that talked tonight is available on Facebook if you want to talk with them. And if you want to do the paranormal class, it will probably be available again next year at Iron to Know You in October. So thank you very much.